While the president's speech comes on the heels of $1 trillion of failed stimulus, bailouts, and temporary gimmicks that have been aimed at creating jobs, the president continued to cling to the idea that government is the solution to creating jobs. My conservative colleagues and I have been fighting over the last 2.5 years for pro-growth policies. And I stand here tonight to say to the president, not only should Congress not pass his plan, I say, Mr. President, stop. Your last plan hasn't worked and it's hurting the American economy. Instead of temporary fixes, do what has worked in the past. Permanent, pro-growth policies that are driven by the free market. Today, unemployment remains at a staggering 9.1%. Job creation has literally been zeroed out with the worst jobs report in 66 years given this last month. And since the president's failed $1 trillion stimulus, we have lost over 2.5 million jobs, while we've added 416,000 government jobs. 1 in 6 Americans is now on food stamps. The average unemployed Americans are out of work is greater than 40 weeks. Housing values have fallen 19% from 2008 to the first quarter of this year. GDP growth was an anemic 0.4% in the first quarter and rounded down to 1% in the last. And the dollar has now lost 12% of its value. These are not good times for the American people. Our patience for speeches, gimmicks, and excuses has clearly run out. The only remedies the president knows are temporary government-directed fixes. And even if the president's plan passes, we already know it will fail in practice. We haven't paid for his last $1 trillion jobs program, and now his latest program would have us embrace potentially, we are told, over $400 billion in new government spending, and no one knows where that money will come from. Spending tax dollars on extending unemployment benefits has proved to add only 25 cents to GDP for every dollar that we spend. Even the president's new economic advisor agrees. Extending unemployment benefits discourages future employment. Spending tax dollars on extending the payroll tax holiday reduced over $111 billion to the Social Security Trust Fund this year, and continuation of this policy will put Social Security checks to senior citizens at even greater risk. Spending taxpayer dollars on more infrastructure projects failed to create lasting jobs in the last stimulus. And looming on the horizon is the full-scale implementation of Obamacare that, according to the Congressional Budget Office, will kill upwards of 800,000 jobs and steal over $500 billion away from Medicare. Candidate Obama promised he would wipe out deficits in the debt. Instead, the president has increased our debt by over $6 trillion. And what do we have to show for it? Permanent increases in the size of government, in government spending, and in government debt, with a greater dependency on government. 4 years ago, President Bush's deficit was around $160 billion. Today, President Obama's deficit is nearly 10 times that amount. The President and Vice President's plan to spend us to prosperity has clearly failed the American people. And worse, they have stolen from a generation of Americans who are yet unborn, the consequences of which mean a near certainty of reduced choices and a dramatically downsized lifestyle for future generations from what we enjoy today. Something this serious that is a potential threat not only for people in New York, but for people around the United States. People need to know and be fully assured that this is an issue that is receiving the full attention of the United States. It would be inappropriate for me to give any comments at all on this, not even on briefing or anything else.
So you can't say if you were briefed or were you aware of this?
I think it's probably best if we just leave it at the fact that this is an issue that is being paid close attention to by not only the members of the Intelligence Committee, but by the administration, members of Congress, and also those in the Justice Department as well. Yes.
Yes, thanks, Congressman. Yeah, I have two questions, one campaign related and one on the speech.
I will not be able to answer any questions that are campaign related. I'm here as a member of Congress in this context.
Okay. I'll on the speech then. The president talked about closing loopholes and getting rid of subsidies for corporations. But later in the speech, he also talked about fuel efficiency and some semiconductors and so forth. Green energy has gotten a whole lot of subsidies, one of the most subsidized, and has gotten some of the most tax loopholes out there. Do you think there's some contradiction there in what he said?
Well, I think there's a great deal of contradiction in what the president said, and I think clearly what we saw is just a sequel of all of the failed policies that the president has put forward in the past. We're living right now today, and the reason why the president's had to give this speech is because his policies have so clearly failed. Yes, the president told us before that the United States should be like Spain when it comes to green jobs, and yet Spain has seen some of the highest levels of unemployment among Western European nations. For every green job that was created in Spain, 2.2 real jobs were lost. And we cannot repeat this type of job policy in the United States. Most recently, there are questions about a big donor to President Obama's reelection, to the Cylinder Corporation, for taking literally hundreds of millions of dollars for the federal government, when in fact Cylinder had never shown a profit. So this is something that needs to be looked into, but as well, we need to go with what works. And clearly what doesn't work is to have the federal government, again, with government-directed solutions, choosing the winners and losers in this economy. We need to do one of these really all of the 9 principles that are up here on the board. This is private solutions that are permanent. They are not temporary, and they're not government-directed. That's really the issue. We have to reframe how the United States is going to grow the economy. The president, from the very beginning, has embraced solutions that are temporary gimmicks. They come and they go. That's what we saw again tonight in the president's remarks. One temporary gimmick and fix after another. But again, all retreads that we've seen before. There was nothing in the president's speech tonight that shows and addresses that he really comprehends that the solutions need to come both from the private sector and that they need to be grounded in private solutions. I'm highly disappointed, and that's why I say that the United States Congress not only needs to not pass the president's plan, but we need to stop the principles and the plans that the president has already passed and put into place.
Congresswoman.
So time for one more question.
John Boehner and Majority Leader Eric Cantor came out tonight in their statements and said there were aspects of the president's plan that they do think have merit, and particularly Peter Cantor said that tax relief for small businesses would be something that he would be open to. Were there any parts of this plan that you would be open to?
I would love to see tax relief for small businesses. And of course, this is a speech that we got, and the Congressional Budget Office has said that it is impossible for them to score a speech that the president gives. And so we don't know the details. We only know the statements that the president has given. But I'm clearly disappointed by what I heard tonight. I didn't see in the president's remarks a plan that will actually be viable to turn the economy around.